Hey, welcome to Performance Reviews, where we give you the review from the technician's point of view, and today we're doing a technical tutorial. Make sure to hit that bell notification since subscriptions don't mean a whole lot on YouTube these days.
Now, some of you will know what this is on my bench. It's a Recar 2000. This was maybe the first branded of Recar uprights. This was, it doesn't even say where it's made. It says who it's made by, but not where it's made. Right here on the sticker, Zing Hush Industries. She asked my wife how you pronounce that, because it's Taiwanese of some sort. So yeah, this machine has a lot of cool things to it. I like these machines. I got no problems with these. I saved it. I saved this from being thrown away. That's how much I like these machines. I really don't hate Recar simplicity, despite, my dealings with them as a company, but some of their products like these were really, really good. So we're gonna open this up and just see what she needs. Man, yucko. Inspected by number 94. Oh, and look at all this belt nonsensory that they used to do. Yeah, this was, I don't know why they did this, but they did this. And you can see the belt that was on there. There's my genuine Recar belt. And Simplicity SP7. Yeah, that's fucking nasty shit. I was not planning on refurbing this one, but it is nasty. Also, there's some stuff flopping around. I'll explain what that is. Okay, yeah, you just pull these covers. So bag check there. And what's flopping around in here is this. This was their solution. So you'd put the bag on, and then you would, you take this, and then you'd, you molest this on, basically. Let's see if it runs. And then if it runs, that doesn't sound good, does it? Well then, first thing we're gonna do is take the back screw out. The handles would crack and these would break. This one's intact. It's amazing. There's a lot of amazing things that are still intact in this. So even though it sounds like that, I'm not actually super concerned about it, because it can be rebuilt, hopefully. So we're gonna take that off. That's gonna be our first thing. It's gonna come off on there. Then we're gonna flip her around. See, now it's a lot easier to work with without that handle on there. All right, there's just should be 3 screws here. Yeah, there's the third one. So now this just pops off. This is gonna slide out off on one side, hopefully. Should slide up. Yep, just like so. Now there's no, what's it called on here? There's no headlight on this one, so don't worry about that. This can break right here. You have to be super careful when you're pulling this apart. But basically, you rotate this and pull him out. So now everything is, should be apparent what we're doing. Yeah. No bearing play, just super dirty. So a little bit of spa day will do this wonders. This does not want to pop out of there. This filter was glued in, and it's sound absorbent, but they get so full of dust, as you see. Next, we're going to pull, and all the plastic covers are on the Recar labels, and on this as well. So that's kind of cool. So you see this, that just pops off. You see how serviceable these are. This is why these got a good reputation with a lot of dealers. Because even though it's kind of built differently than some machines, this is incredibly serviceable. You see no complaints from anybody with these. So we're gonna pull this out, pull the motor out. All this is gonna come out. Pull this all out. And I'm even going to pull the switch out, which are these screws that are slightly different here. So I've got all this just out, and this, what holds the handle in. Again, very good construction, really well thought out machines. It is a shame they ever separated from this. And this machine is much lighter than the last version, the Vibrance versions of these. I don't know what happened with the last Vibrance was just overweight. So if you don't have a Hecko tool, the vice grips are the answer. So I'll just take that. That pulls off. There's my cord. So you saw how fast I just stripped everything out. Super fast. So I'm gonna go wash some of this stuff. Like that's nasty. Basically, everything here is gonna get washed. Man, I was hoping for a date stamp on this motor. That's gonna get blown out with compressed air. All this just gets basically washed. That might get bead blasted. Anybody who's watched the channel for a while know that I don't typically do motor repairs, but this one I had to do. So I'm letting it sit with oil on the bearings. There's plenty of grease in the bearings. It's just old and dried out, so a little bit of oil will moisten it up just enough to run it and play with the machine. The motor's certainly not bad, but that should help its wind down. Then the other motor that they would later switch to would be this guy. Let's start putting the rest of this machine back together. Now off camera I did rebuild the bearings and the brush roller and the motor. I'm not going to bore you with that. That's pretty self-explanatory. I did wash some stuff. Like I said, this machine, the main body couldn't take a trip in the dishwasher. I couldn't get to fit. It was a little too big. But everything else pretty much did, which gets everything nice and clean, and you know, kind of makes it like new. It revitalizes a lot of the plastic too, which is just kind of a nice natural side effect of doing this. Let's start putting everything back together there. These wires don't really go anywhere. They just kind of float around like this. That's kind of how they were when I took it out. They could be flipped on the other side, but not really a huge deal. And that just, I glued this back into place. It fell out, just with a little bit of super glue. This is not a sealed system by any means. The two-tone here is kind of very much to its time period. This little guy just fell out, and I'm looking to see how he was put in. I believe I might be mistaken in terms of how he works. Let's see if I can figure this out. Well, maybe I'm right. Let's see on there. Yeah, that would make sense. That would hit that. You wouldn't think it, but this little piece of sheet metal kind of stumped me for a while before I got it to actuate properly. The other thing I noticed is that the crimp that was holding this on there, that was no good, whoever did that. So we're going to put this back together with all that joyness. The other thing we're going to replace is anytime you see these without the metal in them, they're no good. You do not want to use those. Those will come vibrate loose. Get us a new one of those on there. We'll put some electrical tape to cut down the vibrations. So next, and this is how this came wired up. This is not how I wired it up or anything, but whoever, let me put this in here. There you go. No Hecko tool required. So a lot of what's done with these is they're wire nutted, you know, like this together. And like I said, you're supposed to do this little jump wire. The more I look at this, the more that actually isn't necessary. There is more than enough slack for this to be in and out of there, right? That's just fine. So I don't want a little jump wire in there if I don't have to. The less wires in here, the better. So what we're actually going to do, I've done a lot of these back in the day, but like I said, it's really strange to me that this one came with like this little jump wire on here, and I had made a wire, but well, that's going in the bin. We're just going to crimp this. I need to buy a better set of crimps. Had these cheap Harbor Freight crimps forever, and they're a pretty bad tool. Objectively, they're a pretty bad tool. So that guy just goes there, and then we're... this is kind of not the standard size, so we're just going to fix that real quick and just kind of give it a little bend, like so. And now, we'll just be able to plug this in to the switch, just like so. So you see everything is in there. It's nice and neat. No complaints there, right? I'll just put a little bit of tape on here. Make sure that doesn't vibrate loose. And that looks good to me. There was like a little zip tie in there, so I guess we'll, in the spirit of everything, we'll put another little zip tie in there. It kind of seems unnecessary, but that's how everything was. Clean that up. So now everything should work. I guess before we put everything back together, I should just put the handle in real quick and just test everything will work when we turn into the on or off position. I don't have the screw in here, so it's not going to reset right, but so everything turns on. The motor sounds a little bit better because I lubricated it off camera. And then you saw I cleaned this as well. So everything looks good. Now we can start putting the covers back on and not have to worry about them coming loose. And there'll be a few of these longer screws. Those are what go into here. Now that we've made sure the wiring is good and stuff. Just like that. Again, I'm doing all these by hand because I do not want to break anything. I don't want anything to get hurt. These are kind of brittle at this point. So now I've got this thing to put back on with its little, this is like the bag holder. Not like it is. And then on this end, you would have had through here. I know it's hard to believe that things were tied together, but they were. With just regular knots, nothing special. This looks like it belongs in the Chinese New Year celebration, something with this red finish on there, and that just was in there, holding that on there. So that's so you don't lose this. Next, we're going to put the Recar logo on this part, and you see all these gaskets kind of overlap the way these are made. And I can see where it started to crack over there, so we're going to clip it in and try and get everything nice and settled first. And then there's just a screw holding her down over here. All right, I found the other screws. They were on the box that I used to carry this thing up. So believe it or not, this is after the dishwasher, and I actually ran some water through this and scrubbed it by hand. This has seen some use. It's got a few miles on it. The other thing I would like to show, so you can see that the pedal release is kind of, it's been seen better days. There was like a kit that was available for doing this to reinforce these. I might just get a new pedal release for this down the line. We'll see if it stands up by itself though. So once you put this on, yeah, I have a feeling that's just going to stand up all by itself just fine. So once you put this on, there's a little bit of grease on here. You got to make sure there's a little bit of grease. You do not want any grease in the motor shaft, otherwise your belt's going to slip and you're going to have a bad time. So because this thing's flopping around on this machine, we're going to go ahead and do some things out of step from how I would normally do this, which is just put the bag in. And look what I got at my local vacuum shop. Ain't that the shit. We got a Type A bag, and there it is. There's a filter. Now some of these would have had like a red cage that should have been in here. Some of these did not. I'm not sure specifically why or how. The good news about doing this is the customer could put the bag on easily. So I do like that. I really do think this is not a horrible system. This is better than like what Hoover had with the Y bag or something. And then once this is on, you see it's just going to rock into place. So we're going to do this. I'm just going to maybe. Ah, there we go. I was being too careful with it. So yeah, that'll rock into place. And now we have a HEPA bag on a 30-year-old machine, which is always a great thing. I always like doing that. So we're just going to set this. Now we have this nice body that moves around. Turn her around. And the wheels are way too loose on this machine. Again, this has got some cracks in it. There's a lot going on here that are just normal with a machine that's this age with this many quote-unquote miles on it. So something I like to do with these is just giving them a little bit of grease around there makes this better. It makes it move better. Again, you don't have to do that, but that's just something I've been doing for a long, long time that I've found it to be helpful. So after that, then this just kind of all goes into place like so. And now you can see we have 3 screws. There's a long one. I say long one. That's how much longer it is. It goes into here. Let's make sure it's... That might be the newer ones the long one goes in, because I just bottomed that out. So, okay, so they did change this from the other one I did just, you know, it's just a few years newer. So it looks like the shorter one's actually going in here. It's all fine and good. It's just, wow, okay, this is just different. All these are the same thread, by the way. This is just very different than how they would do it just a couple of years later. All right, yeah, and those screws are on. Okay, all this makes sense now. Looking at this, and we'll just put those in. Wow, that's interesting they changed that. So I'm going to be doing a red and gray machine that's similar to this, and it's going to, the screw order is going to be different. Yeah, that all, wow, it's all perfect. All right, so these screws come loose. Anytime you do a tune-up, you always have to tighten these. So this machine is from a time when we had some things that were different in here. One of those things was this sort of belt guide thing. And I don't know if you can see it, but it actually clips in the metal bracket like so, and then it rides in there like that. It's convoluted. They would later switch to this style, which makes a hell of a lot more sense to me. But this one don't have it. So yeah, that's how the belt guide goes in there. And the thing that holds the belt guide in place is this little cover. See how that's nice and tight now? But then as soon as you open this cover, it comes loose. Now the other thing is I'm using a genuine belt, which is a little bit too wide for this. So we might not use that. We'll see. I might end up just getting another one of these and throwing it on here. You can see that belt fits in there more practically. I could also use like a Panasonic belt rather than the genuine Simplicity Recar belt would be, again, another solution. And these are all things that are acceptable, but because I was staying with genuine, I went down to my local vacuum shop to get some of these things. This is what I came up with. Now, the other thing we need to put together is this, which I bead blasted and tried to remove some of the rust. You do that, now you give it a, like I said, you give it a twist. Button lock, and then this and this are all, they just go in there like that. It's the only thing really holding that in place. Last, I've got the rubber end caps, and this was a big feature for its time. These rubber end caps would have cut down a lot of vibration and noise. And as always, we're just going to pledge any rubber after it's been in the dishwasher. Which that heat from the dishwasher and that moisture for the few hours really helps revitalize a lot of these rubber parts. Like this hose is way more flexible as well from doing that. So there we go. And the pledge is just to help preserve the rubber. So that just goes there. It goes on like that. And you can see that brush roller moves and spins freely. And we can see the belt kind of walked off. You're going to have to see how that is by itself. So now the belt's tensioned. Let's see if this piece will fit in there or not. I don't like that, that's rubbing. So we are going to put the handle on at this point along with, I didn't wash this piece or really do much with it. I got maybe some steel wool on the end of this will probably be good. just to preserve this. This is another important little doodad. A lot of metal fell out of this machine when you changed the belt. It's very different than how machines later would be. So my handle has a lot of play in it. I suspect the internal pieces to be cracked. I'm just going to quickly, by hand, tighten them. Still a lot of play. We're going to leave that as is. Next we have this. That just goes in there. That's probably the end of our Phillips screws. We go to flathead screws now, because we have two big flathead screws for the base plate. All right, we're gonna watch the belt run, just make sure nothing's gonna walk off. That machine smells so good. Oh my gosh, the laundry detergent in there just smells magical. All right, so we're not gonna put this piece back, and I don't need to do a separate video, but I'm gonna just order one of these and throw it on to preserve the machine. So we're gonna just snap that cover back and put the base plate on. Base plate looks like this. This looks all fine. You can sometimes need to crimp this with a pair of pliers. I think this one's gonna be fine. I got some holes from bare floor use starting to develop, but they're not horrible. So we're just going to real quick make sure there's no burrs with some steel wool. No burrs, but again, you can see where things were starting to form as far as holes were in the middle of that. Same on this side, and these can actually wear through. The wheels are also very anemic compared to later machines. And just like always, you just want to give them a little bit of tri-flow so they don't squeak. So that's fine. That'll just go on, snap on there. And these are already cracked, what hold these on. So in this case, again, we're just gonna put a little bit of oil on the screws and start these literally by hand if we can. Because in the lifetime of this machine, these screws come off a lot. And that's why they'd go to the switch style base plate later on. I say later on, like 30 years later. They didn't discontinue this design until maybe like 2012. They basically went with these same sort of different versions of this essential design. And you'd also see Fuller Brush use this design as well. All right, so all that looks good. There's no light on this one, you'll have to remember. And these marks here are from the plastic. Oh, I wanted to do this. All the logos on this machine had that stuck to them. And when you leave it on there for too long, they can leave marks. So that's what that's from. Oh my. That really works good. Now just for fun, the way the suction worked is you would block the suction and do that. That's the way the tools work. So yeah, I'm as satisfied with that as I can be, considering its age and considering it's going to be thrown out. I'm happy to have saved this little piece of Taiwanese American history known as a Riccar for you all to see. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Go ahead and give it the thumbs up button. And if you want to talk about something else, we have a Vacuum Talk Discord server. I'd highly recommend you come check out the conversation there. I'll put a link below. And if you really love what we're doing, check out our Patreon and have yourself a wonderful day.